Picture this. At my dad's birthday, a courier walks in, and my stepmother and my brother-in-law slide a stack of papers across the table. Yellow tabs, just standard. Minutes later, my dad signs, and I'm told to leave my own house. I'm Maria. I found my mother's journal and a joint bank receipt dated 2 weeks before she died. Proof she wanted us consulted, and to pause when tired. That's when I fought back with a notary, copies, and the truth on paper. Would you have kept the peace? Or halted everything right there? If it were your family, what's the first question you'd ask before anyone signs? Tell me in the comments. Was I protecting my father? Or stirring up trouble? Your take might be the one I needed to hear. The altar filled our Houston living room. Candles trembled beside marigolds. Papel picado brushed the curtains. My father, Tomas, cleared his throat by the couch. Family, he said, palm toward the ofrenda. We're keeping the house in order this year. Lorena is helping. With everything. Lorena smiled the kind of smile that doesn't ask. It arranges. Beside her, my brother-in-law Javier added, casual. I can handle the paperwork. Keep things tidy. I looked at the altar instead of faces. In Mom's years, the photo frame lived by the sunny window, where late light laid a gold bar across her cheek. She said sunlight softened absence. Today, the frame edged toward the wall. Lorena turned it slightly. Better balance, she murmured. It gets more sun by the window, I said. We'll keep it like this today, she answered, not unkind, but closed. Javier hovered with a platter. Light is good, he said. So is order. When files are in place and signatures are clean, families breathe easier. A firm I know can review everything. Grace brought cafecito. Dad's eyes softened at the candles, then tightened. He raised his cup. To peace, he said. We echoed him because that's what families do when air feels breakable. When the hum dipped, I nudged the frame a breath toward the window. Not even an inch. Please leave it, Lorena said low. We're following a layout. I just want it to catch the sun. We still see her, she replied. Let's not move everything because it's a hard day. Javier set down the platter and offered a tiny seminar on streamlining. Little adjustments, he said. Update beneficiaries, refresh deeds, maybe a power of attorney. Standard. Yellow tabs, sign here, done. On the dining table, a manila envelope peeked from under napkins. Its corner bore the embossed logo of a Houston law firm. The flap had been slit clean. Music rose. The room remembered how to be a room. Dad touched my elbow. Leave it how it is today. Mija, he said. We have a lot of people. It wasn't a scold, it was a period. Javier kept weaving through the chatter. Once we regularize, less confusion, no more midnight worries. Lorena followed with small corrections. Move a chair, straighten the runner. I set a napkin beside the photo. A thin ribbon of sun still crossed my mother's cheek. Uncle Victor arrived late with a six-pack. So, papers? He grinned. Javier met him halfway and lowered his voice about notaries and time slots. Grace wore her careful public smile. We told the story about Mom burning tortillas and pretending it was on purpose. For minutes, the altar's calm felt shared. Then the shift returned. Javier stood with the manila envelope in his hand. Casual as a TV remote. I can drop this at the firm tomorrow, he told Dad. They like things neat. We're almost there. Almost where? I asked. To a cleaner file, he said. Dad exhaled. Let's not debate, he said to me, then to everyone. Today I want quiet. Today we do it this way. His voice settled over the plates like a cover. Conversation found new lanes. I carried dishes so my hands wouldn't argue. When I came back, Lorena was showing a niece how to pinch marigolds. Javier explained timelines and checklists. I stood by the window and let the light touch my knuckles. As it is today, I repeated, a phrase you're supposed to accept without chewing. I pictured a table where decisions happen and tried to see my chair at it. The chair flickered like a weak bulb. From the table, the firm's logo winked from the envelope. Yellow tabs peeked from a folder inside. I could almost hear, sign here, initial there, keep things moving. I set the frame's edge flush with the runner. The light thinned and left the glass. Dad tapped his cup. "Thank you for being here," he said. "Let's keep things peaceful." That night, I kept my questions like unmailed letters. If order was coming, I wanted to know whose order it was. And if a table had been set for decisions, I wanted to know whether there was still a place card with my name on it, or if my seat had been cleared already. I waited until the last guests left, and the living room fell into that soft clatter of plates being stacked and small talk dissolving. From the hallway, I could still see the ofrenda flicker, but the rest of the house felt dim, patient. I walked past the laundry room and stopped at the door we still call Mom's room, even though it has been a storage closet for more than a year. Tomas's voice from earlier pressed into my head. "Don't touch the old keepsakes," and I turned the knob anyway. The bulb in the ceiling worked, but I left it off. I used the lamp on the dresser so the light would spill in one direction and not shout that someone was inside. Cardboard boxes sat where garment bags used to hang. A stack of plastic bins leaned toward a wooden cabinet with wide drawers, the one Mom bought secondhand and sanded herself in the backyard. In the low lamp glow, the varnish looked like honey. I pulled the top drawer. It slid 2 inches and stopped. Locked. The second was the same. The bottom gave a little and caught, as if it had a secret hinge. I knelt and ran my fingertip along the underside of the lip, the way I had seen Mom do when she hid Christmas gifts from us. No key, but there was a notch, the kind you only feel if you expect it to be there. I pressed and the wood clicked inward, releasing a breath of dust. Inside, a layer of sweaters folded to look like the top of a suitcase. I lifted them and found the real cargo, manila envelopes labeled in Mom's writing, the slanted, practical kind she used on freezer bags and school forms. Insurance, HOA, taxes, and one slim envelope with a bank logo. I eased it free. The flap had been sliced with a letter opener, not torn. With both hands, I shook out the contents onto my lap. A thermal paper receipt, slightly faded but still readable. Deposit confirmation. The date sat like a pin in my throat, 2 weeks before Mom died. Account ending in numbers I recognized from old errands. Account holders. Tomas, last name. Anna, last name. Joint account. I said the words inside my mouth, like testing a bridge before stepping on it. I checked the edges for a sticky note, a signature, anything that might attach it to today. On the back, someone had written a grocery list that looked like Mom's: milk, cilantro, stamps. I took photos with my phone, flash off, sound off, front, back, close-up of the date, banking center address, our last name in all caps. I opened the camera details and forced the GPS tag on even though I never use it. A clean timestamp with location felt like a small shield. Then I slid the receipt into a fresh sleeve from my purse and left the original where I found it, the way Miguel would want. The last thing I needed was to win a document and lose the room. Behind me, the floorboard by the door creaked. I hadn't heard footsteps. Lorena leaned against the frame, a shadow with a perfume note I'd come to associate with announcements. "Looking for something?" she asked, sweet as a tea bag. "I'm putting sweaters back the way Mom folded them," I said without standing. It was true enough to wear. She stepped into the lamplight and looked at the half-open drawer. Her expression didn't change. "Don't dig up the past, Maria. It never ends well." "The past is what keeps floating into our living room with manila envelopes," I said. "I'm just naming what I find." She studied the wooden lip, the manila corners, my hands. Tomas asked for peace, she said. He's exhausted. He cannot carry your curiosity right now. My curiosity has dates and bank logos, I answered. It weighs less than a rumor. Lorena smiled with only half her face. If you keep going through drawers, I'll have to tell him. Tonight. I really don't want to wake him up for this. I put the sweaters back exactly as they had been, the tag edges facing left, the satin ribbon tucked under. The drawer's smell returned to cedar and starch. I pressed the notch. The face closed with a soft click. You don't have to wake him, I said. There's nothing to hide if everything is in order. She lifted one shoulder. Order first, then explanations. It's cleaner that way. My mother wrote the opposite in her planners, I said. Explanations first, so the order belongs to everyone. Lorena looked toward the hallway, maybe listening for Tomas, maybe calculating the time she'd need to make a phone call. You're grieving, she said. Grief makes patterns where there aren't any. She touched the edge of a plastic bin. Tomorrow we'll sort. With me present. I'll be here, I said, with timestamps. Her eyes sharpened a fraction, like the word had nicked her. Good night, Maria. She left as quietly as she had come. The floorboard complained once, and then the house swallowed the sound. When the room was mine again, I kept still for a count of 10. I slid the bank envelope back into the same pocket of the drawer, sweater layer restored, everything facing the same direction. I took 2 more photographs of the cabinet and the drawer front in case anyone wanted to say the notch didn't exist. Then I turned off the lamp and stood in the dark to let my eyes read the shapes Mom used to navigate at night. The chair, the mirror, the cardigan on the hook. My phone thumped in my palm. A text from Raquel. Did you find anything? I sent her a single line. Bank receipt, joint. Then a photo crop of the date and our surnames. She typed back fast. Don't move the original. Note time, place. Tomorrow we call the legacy department. Breathe. I breathed. In the hall, the ofrenda's light made a card of the doorway. I stepped out and closed the door softly until the latch caught. On my way to the kitchen, I passed the manila envelope on the dining table. Its law firm logo looked like a stamp you buy for weddings. I took a picture of the corner and the torn flap, bright in the phone screen and small enough to ignore if you wanted to. By the sink, I washed my hands longer than necessary, as if ink could transfer without touching. The house had that in-between quiet of a place that hosted too much emotion and now wanted to nap. I filled a glass and leaned against the counter. Why lock drawers for sweaters? Why slice open an old bank envelope and put it back? Why say don't dig when the floorboards already know the path? I carried my questions to the hallway, where the altar waited patient as a lighthouse. Mom's photo caught the faintest sliver of streetlight. I stood there until my heartbeat matched the candle's sway. In the morning, I would have more than a feeling. I would have a date, a branch address, 2 names printed side by side. Tonight, I had enough to ask a different kind of question. Not why I was looking, but why someone else was working so hard to keep the lid shut for me. The house smelled like buttercream and roasted chicken. Balloons bobbed at the ceiling, and the string lights that Diego hung last winter finally had a purpose beyond. We'll take them down soon. It was my father's birthday. People arrived with foil pans and loud hugs. Someone put a mariachi playlist on low, and the living room pulsed like a steady heart. Lorena ran the room the way a head waiter runs a Saturday night. She moved plates, angled chairs, redirected questions with a bright, "I've got it." "She's so organized," an aunt said twice, to no one in particular. Javier worked the other side of the crowd. He shook hands like a junior partner, remembered names he shouldn't know, and said things like, "Don't worry, we'll make this simple." He never said what this was. When Dad came out from the hallway, freshly shaved and a little overwhelmed, everyone clapped. Lorena tapped a glass with a spoon. Let me say a few words, she smiled, before Tomas could lift his hands. This year taught us about family and about calm. We're keeping things in order so he can rest and enjoy. Thank you for helping us keep the house peaceful. She put a gentle hand on his sleeve as if to anchor him to her sentence. Javier stepped in on cue. And part of that is keeping the paperwork tidy, he said, easy and warm. When documents are current, life is lighter. We can bring a file up to date in a day. Standard stuff. Heads nodded. Somebody said, Amen. Diego watched from the doorway, arms crossed, his face unreadable. I waited for the right lull and gave Dad my gift. A restored frame, the one with Mom laughing so hard her eyes disappeared. For your desk, I said. He took it in both hands, thumb on the glass. He smiled with his mouth, and then looked over my shoulder at the food table. Later, he said, soft. He set the frame on a shelf, behind a plant with long leaves. I told myself it was just space, not meaning. Uncle Victor arrived late with a paper bag and his favorite hobby, stirring. Speech, he shouted. Lorena already had hers. We're so lucky, she said, looking at Tomas while speaking to the room. And we're regularizing a few little things so lucky stays. A cousin clapped. Grace, flushed and calm, managed the cake plates. The doorbell rang. Javier reached it first, as if he had been the one expecting someone. A courier stood there in a windbreaker, holding a flat envelope with a barcode sticker. Delivery for Mr. Tomas, he said. Javier signed the handheld with a practiced scribble and brought the envelope in like it was a napkin. Tomas, this is the packet we talked about, Javier said, already sliding the manila flap open. Inside, a neat stack of papers bloomed, edges marked with yellow tabs. Initial here, sign there. It's all boilerplate. The firm does this all the time. Maybe after cake, I said, too bright. It'll take 30 seconds, Javier replied kindly. Why let it hang over him? Dad looked at Lorena. She nodded, the smallest nod, the kind that pretends to be nothing. Javier placed the stack on the dining table between the forks and the candles. He pointed with the cap of a pen, tab by tab. This confirms authority in case of emergencies, he said. This aligns beneficiary language. This one just acknowledges receipt. He used words that soothe, like align, confirm, acknowledge. Not one of them said, change. Lorena kept the room moving. Coffee now? She called. Cake, let's cut. People drifted toward the kitchen island. Diego didn't move. He watched the pen as if it were a switch. Dad took the pen. Is this necessary? He asked, not fighting, only tired. It keeps things simple, Javier said. So you can relax. I promise. Dad signed where the yellow told him to. His hand shook a little from age and from the eyes in the room. He initialed a corner, then another. I edged closer. One header looked like durable power of, but Javier's wrist covered the rest as he turned the page. Another sheet had language about successor authority. I felt the air thin in my chest. Maybe we should wait, I said, quieter. Read together. After dinner. With a list. Javier didn't look at me. This is standard, he repeated, friendly as a doormat. I'll walk it back to the firm tomorrow. They love timely clients. Lorena laughed at a cousin's joke and adjusted Dad's plate like this, too, was hosting. We're almost done, she told him. So you can eat your cake while it's still cold. He signed the last tab. Javier stacked the pages, squared the edges with the table, and slid them back into the envelope. For a moment, when he lifted the flap, I saw the law firm's logo stamped into the paper, 2 initials and a scale, then the lip closed and the emblem was gone. Happy birthday, Javier said, clapping Dad's shoulder in a brotherly way that did not belong to him. We sang. The candles made shadows jump on the ceiling. Dad smiled like a man finally allowed to be the soft part of his own party. Grace handed me a plate even though I hadn't asked for one. Uncle Victor leaned in. "So," he whispered, eyes on the envelope. "House in order?" "Apparently," I said. After the song, I reached for the frame again. "Just a second," I told Dad. "Let me put her where the light hits." He hesitated, then glanced at Lorena. She was already moving toward another table, already fixing another corner. He shook his head once. "Tomorrow," he said. "Let's keep today peaceful." Javier slipped the envelope into his bag. He didn't zip it, as if to say nothing needed hiding. He thanked the courier on his phone with a quick text. Diego stepped closer to me, close enough that I could hear him breathe in and out once, like a count. "You saw the tabs," he murmured. I nodded. The night wrapped itself back into party noises, plastic forks, laughter that tried. I stacked plates again. When I passed the dining table, a smear of ink glowed wet on the top page where Dad's hand had paused. I could not read the line, only the shine. Before I slept, I tried to remember the exact shape of the logo on the envelope. 2 initials, a scale. The name slid from my mind like a fish. I knew I'd see it again. I knew I'd need to. For now, the only thing I could carry was that flash of embossing, the way a brand flashes when the light finds it, and the feeling that some doors had just been closed with a friendly click I was not meant to hear. The cafe by the law school smelled like espresso and rain off the parking lot. Shoes clicked on concrete. The milk steamer hissed like a warning. Raquel waved me over with both hands, already halfway out of her chair. Next to her sat a man with a legal pad and a quiet face. "Maria, this is Miguel," she said. "He does estates and real property." I sat and tried to swallow the lump that had followed me since the birthday party. "Lorena keeps telling me not to touch old things," I began. "Javier says it's all standard. But he brought a courier with an envelope and yellow tabs. My dad signed without reading. And last night I found a bank receipt. Joint account. My mom's name with my dad's. 2 weeks before she died." Miguel's pen touched paper. He did not interrupt. Raquel pulled the receipt from the sleeve I had brought and lined it up with my phone. "We took time-stamped photos," she told him. "Front and back, branch address, GPS on." Miguel nodded. "Okay. First things first. You're in Texas, community property state. That means most assets acquired during the marriage are community unless clearly separate. If there was a joint account, that matters. If documents were signed after your mother passed, timing matters too." He drew 4 boxes: house, accounts, powers, beneficiaries. Javier's voice kept replaying in my head. Confirm here, align there. And I felt my jaw clench. He kept saying align and acknowledge. He never said change. "That's how people sign without panic," Miguel said. "Language that sounds like housekeeping. We need to know exactly what your father signed. Power of attorney, transfer on death deed, beneficiary changes. We ask for copies. We do not guess." Raquel opened her laptop. "There's also a legacy portal some banks keep," she said. "Old signature cards, old statements, we can request them. It won't be a court fight today, it's paper." Miguel tapped the receipt. "This is a start. But we'll want more than a thermal slip. We'll ask the bank for certified copies. Signature card. Most recent statement before death. Any changes after." I told them about Lorena catching me at the drawer, about the notch under the lip, about the sweaters, the smell of cedar, the way she said, "Don't dig up the past." Raquel's mouth became a thin line. "People who say that usually already dug," she said. "We put this in a timeline," she wrote. 2 weeks before death, joint deposit. Then, birthday party, envelope from firm, yellow tabs, signatures. Then, night after in storage room, drawer with notch. Miguel added, Request copies. Today. Ask father. Copies of what he signed. He glanced at me. We do it calm. No speeches? You ask, can I make a folder so we all rest? That language works. I stared at the receipt again. There's something else, I said. I saw a message on Javier's phone at the party. Courier delivered. Another cousin said he hears Javier gets a thank you fee when he sends business to that firm. I don't know if that's true. Miguel's pen paused. Conflict of interest is important, he said carefully. But we don't lead with that. We lead with neutral facts. Bank, signatures, dates. If they deny or minimize, then we note any commissions or kickbacks. Step by step. The steamer screamed and stopped. Rain tapped the window. For a moment, the 4 boxes on Miguel's pad looked like windows too, all shut. Before we leave, Raquel said, is there anywhere else in your house your mom would have kept notes? A planner, a journal. She sounds like a person who wrote things down. I felt heat behind my eyes. She had little lists everywhere, on recipes, on envelopes. She used to say, if it isn't written, it isn't shared. Then let's go look, Raquel said. Not to take, to document. If there is a journal, it will tell us how she thought about the house. It might even say, don't sign without the kids. Women write sentences like that. They're bridges. We paid and drove back to the house. The sky was the color of dishwater. Inside, the living room kept the mornings quiet. I led them to the storage room. The notch still found my finger like it belonged to it. The drawer opened. Sweaters, cedar, the manila stack. Same order, I said. I didn't move labels. Miguel put on thin gloves. Raquel filmed from over his shoulder. Insurance, HOA, taxes. And then, under the envelope with the bank logo, a black notebook with an elastic band. My breath stopped. I slid it free and laid it flat on the dresser. The first page had my mother's name and a phone number from before we changed carriers. The second had a list labeled house. Under it, 3 short lines. Joint stays joint. Ask kids before signing. If tired, pause. My throat closed. Raquel took a still photo, then another with a close-up of the words, ask kids. We moved forward. Dates, small prayers, grocery lists, a line about a leaky faucet. And then, 3 months before the wedding, a name. Lorena, meeting at the bank. Asks about transfer. Miguel and I both looked up. This is before marriage, he said. We'll need context, but the note exists. It matters. We kept flipping. One more mention of Lorena, circled. A line about balances and don't go negative underlined twice. On the last page, my mother had written her own reminder to herself. Notary, hash, neutral. Then a smiley face, the kind she drew to calm herself. I closed the journal with both hands and felt its weight. She was already fighting for air, I said, and she put it on paper so we could breathe later. Raquel nodded. Now we make copies. We leave the original here, locked. We log time and place. Then we plan language for your father. No attacks. Only requests. She looked at me. You say, Dad, for your rest and ours, can we pause and take these to a notary? Miguel slid the journal back under the sweaters, in the exact place it had lived. He pressed the notch until the drawer face was flush. We go slow, he said. Slow is strong. In the doorway, I looked once toward the living room. The ofrenda's last candle trembled. Somewhere outside, a car door slammed and a dog barked. In my head, one sentence began to write itself in my mother's block letters. A table, a notary, a pause, and beneath it, smaller, the name she had circled months before she wore a white dress into our house. The office was mostly dark, the lobby sign glowing like a small moon through the glass. I buzzed Diego in with my keycard, and we walked past the framed photos of job sites, steel ribs cut against Texas sky. The family company smells like coffee and drywall dust even at night. I set the black journal on his desk and did not sit. "You promised you would protect your sisters," I said. "Say it again if you still mean it." Diego rubbed the spot between his eyes, the same place he presses when numbers will not add. "I meant it," he said. "I just do not know how to do it without setting the whole building on fire." "Start by reading," I said, and opened the journal to the page with my mother's block letters, "Joint stays joint." "Ask kids before signing. If tired, pause." He read in silence. His index finger traced the lines the way he used to trace road maps when he was 10. I placed the bank receipt next to the notebook, then the photo I had taken of the signature card preview. He compared dates, lips moving without sound. 2 weeks before, he said. "This is not ancient history." "Javier calls it housekeeping," I answered. "Housekeeping does not come with yellow tabs." He flipped further. The entry about the bank meeting months before the wedding. The word notary, written as if it were a friend. Diego leaned back and blew out a long breath. "I was quiet at the party because I did not want to embarrass Dad," he said. "I was quiet after because I thought maybe it would calm down on its own." "And did it?" I asked. He shook his head. The elevator dinged. We both looked up, then at the clock. No one should be here. Footsteps. A key in the door. Lorena stepped in with a tidy tote bag and a softer voice than the hour deserved. "I saw the light," she said. "Thought it was the alarm. Good evening." Diego closed the journal in one movement and slid it under a stack of invoices. My hand was already on the bank receipt, folding it into my jacket pocket before I knew I was moving. "Working late," Lorena smiled. "Tomas could not sleep, so I drove around the block. Paperwork never ends, right?" "We were reviewing bids," Diego said. His voice sounded normal, a little too normal. Her gaze wandered the desk, the corners, the chair legs. "Maria," she said, gentle. "You keep finding ways to make a hard season harder." "I keep finding dates and signatures," I said. "They do not make the season. They only draw it." She tilted her head, like she was listening for rain. "Families collapse over papers," she said. "Do not be the reason this one does." The phone on Diego's desk lit up. Javier's name filled the screen. Diego tapped accept and put it on speaker before I could stop him. "Hey," Javier said. "All business." "Quick check. Did you get Tomas to sign the acknowledgement and the durable POA? The firm wants to file in the morning. If we do it now, no delays." "We are in the office," Diego said. "Going through numbers." "Perfect." "Keep it simple," Javier said. "No need to make a big deal out of forms. Tell Maria not to spin people up. This is standard, brother. We are doing Tomas a favor." Lorena smiled at the floor like the call were a cat purring around her ankles. I leaned toward the phone. "If it is standard, send me copies." There was a pause that sounded like static. "Maria," Javier said, friendlier, "you do not want to drown in legalese. Let me handle. The fewer cooks, the better the soup." "Then put the recipe in writing," I said. "Do not make this adversarial," he replied, now almost laughing. "We are all on the same side." He hung up without goodbye. Diego set the phone down on a yellow pad like it might leave a stain if it touched the wood. "See?" Lorena said to Diego, not to me. "Noise. This is what I mean. Your sister thinks in storms." "Storms do not print bank logos," I said. "They do not stamp dates." She turned to me with that small, pointed sweetness. "You are not protecting the house by shaking it. You are scaring your father. If you keep digging, I will wake him up and tell him you broke into Anna's drawers." "I did not break into anything," I said. "The notch was made by the person who filled that drawer. She left the truth for us." Lorena's smile went flat. You want to fight? She said. I want a bed. She looked at Diego. Please talk to Tomas tomorrow. Calm him. He trusts you. She backed toward the door. And Maria, leave the old papers to the people who know how to file them. She left the way she came, a moving hush. We stared at the closed door until the elevator swallowed the footsteps. Diego took a long swallow of water. She is not wrong about Dad being tired, he said, almost to himself. He cannot handle a blow-up. I am not asking for a blow-up, I said. I am asking for copies and a pause. You saw what Mom wrote. She used the word pause like a life jacket. He picked up the journal again and set it down without opening it. He looked at the window, the parking lot, the dark silhouettes of trucks that would not move until morning. His jaw counted something I could not see. Help me, I said, softer. You do not have to choose a battlefield. Choose a sentence. Choose, we pause at a notary. Choose no more signatures until we have copies. Choose us. He rubbed his knuckles with his thumb. His silence from the birthday and the cafe re-entered the room, sat in his chair, folded its hands. He was inside it again, heavy and familiar. Diego, I said. Say anything. The desk phone rang, the old landline no one uses. He jumped and grabbed it. This is Diego. His face changed. He listened, nodded, said okay twice, and a third time, we are on our way. He hung up. Tomas, he said. He wants you home. Now. Why? I asked. He did not say. Just, tell Maria to come now. Diego looked at the journal like it might tell him what to do next. We will talk after, he said, and the words were both a promise and a door closing gently. I slid the journal into my bag and slid it back out. The original stays, I said. We use the transcript. I tucked the notebook under the invoices again and aligned the edges the way Miguel does until all the corners met. At the elevator, I pressed the button and looked at Diego. When you choose, I told him, choose a sentence you can sleep inside. The doors opened. He did not move. I will call you, he said. I will. On the ride down, I counted my breaths and the floors. In the lobby, I checked my phone. A missed call from Tomas. No message, just the red dot, as if urgency had become a sound we were expected to know without hearing. Outside, the air was damp and warm. My car keys felt heavier than metal. I drove home with the receipt's date repeating in my head like a mile marker. As I turned onto our street, another thought beat with it, quiet but persistent, like a line of text at the bottom of a screen. Silence is a choice, until it is not. Diego had not spoken for me tonight. But in the space he left, something had shifted, a hinge loosening in its housing. I did not know which way the door would swing. I only knew my father had called, and that whatever waited at the house would move the night from maybe to yes. Thomas called everyone for dinner like it was a holiday. The table was set heavier than usual. Roast, rice, beans, bright salads, a pie someone insisted belonged on every table. The ofrenda burned steady at the end of the room, a patient lighthouse. Chairs formed a loose circle around the dining table, then closed in when the last aunt arrived with extra forks. Javier sat next to Lorena, close enough to read her breath. Dad took the head of the table and looked smaller than the chair. We'll keep this short, Tomas said, hands folded. We need order. We need peace. Lorena spoke before anyone else could. We also need respect, she added, soft but shaped like a rule. In this house, and for this family, we set an altar, we make a meal. We do not turn grief into a courtroom. Her eyes found me and landed like a stamp. Maria has been going through Anna's old drawers. She is stirring things that should lie still. I held my breath and then let it out slow. I found dates, I said, and a bank receipt. Mom's name next to Dad's on a joint account 2 weeks before she died. I have a transcript from her journal about not signing without us. Javier smiled with the tone of a teacher who likes easy students. And I have a list of the standard forms Tomas signed to keep things simple. This is not a seminar, Maria. It's housekeeping. You have been making it sound like a conspiracy. Lorena lifted a hand. See? This is what I mean. Disloyalty dressed as concern. What daughter tries to embarrass her father at his own table? I felt my face heat, then cool. What daughter lets him sign in the dark? I asked. When she has a light in her hand. Uncle Victor leaned forward like a man warming his palms. Let her finish, he said, almost cheerful. But the room turned busy with noise. 2 cousins whispered, an aunt clucked about airing laundry. A nephew asked for more beans. Grace reached for Dad's shoulder. Let's not fight, she said to me, eyes pleading. Please. Miguel wasn't here. Raquel wasn't either. It was just me and the words I had practiced. I kept them short. I want copies. I want a pause. I want a notary. That's it. Javier shook his head. You want control, he said, still warm. You want to hold a pen you don't need. Stop, Tomas said, not loud, but the room obeyed. He rubbed the edge of the table with his thumb. I am tired, he continued. I cannot carry this noise. Lorena leaned toward him. Then put it down, she whispered, for him, but also for us. We will keep things moving. The house cannot freeze. I took the folded transcript of the journal from my pocket. I did not unfold it. I placed it on the table near my plate. This is not noise, I said. It's my mother's handwriting. She wrote, ask the kids before signing. She wrote, if tired, pause. I am asking for what she asked. Javier laughed once, a polite cough. Handwriting does not run a house, signatures do. Tomas already signed. We are just aligning language, that is all. Diego stared at his glass as if it held a compass. He opened his mouth and closed it. His silence sat next to him like a second person. Enough, Tomas said. He pushed his chair back a fraction. I will not be attacked in my home. No one is attacking you, I said. We love you. We want order, he cut in, and peace. He looked at me, not unkind, but far away. Maria, you have turned the last weeks into a storm. I cannot sleep. I cannot eat. I am making a decision. He glanced at Javier, then at Lorena, then, slowly, back at me. You will stay with Raquel for a while, until the house is calm. It was not the sentence I expected, and yet it was exactly the one I should have. The table went quiet like a lake when wind stops. Grace's hand flew to her mouth. Uncle Victor sat back, lips pressed. Diego finally looked at me and then looked down again. Lorena lowered her eyes in a performance of sorrow. Only for a little time, she said, so Tomas can rest. I have done nothing but ask for copies, I said. You are sending me out for asking to see. Dad lifted his palm. I am also signing a paper, he added, and pulled a thin envelope from his breast pocket. The same law firm's embossing flashed and was gone. Javier slid a pen into his hand the way a nurse slides a straw into a glass. This acknowledges temporary changes, Javier said. Name adjustments, access limitations. Simple. It protects everyone while we finalize the file. You can reverse later if needed. Dad, I said, please, at least let a notary. Not tonight, he replied. Tonight we finish. I need to sleep. The room held its breath. Tomas placed the paper on a cutting board, of all things. The yellow tabs were already there, marking corners like tiny flags. He initialed one, then another, then signed his full name. The pen squeaked and stopped. Javier blotted the edge with a napkin and tucked the paper back into the envelope with a crisp slide that sounded like closing season. Grace whispered my name, I heard it like it was printed on the underside of the table. Lorena's face relaxed into relief. "Thank you," she told Tomas, as if he had done her a kindness he owed. "I am not dangerous," I said to the room. "I am not disloyal. I am asking for the exact words our mother wrote." "Do not use her to hurt me," Tomas said. And there it was, the wound where my voice could not go. I stood. My chair made a sound that did not belong to dinner. "I will pack a bag," I said. "I will stay at Raquel's. I will come back when there is a table with a notary and copies." I took the folded transcript back into my pocket. I am not leaving the family. I am leaving the noise. No one stopped me. Diego's fingers twitched toward mine and then anchored to his glass. Uncle Victor cleared his throat and said nothing clever. Grace looked like a painting of a woman praying. In the hallway, I reached for my shoes. Behind me, the doorframe held the smell of wax and roast. When I opened the front door, evening air leaned in, damp and warm. As the latch settled, I heard Lorena laugh. Small, private, satisfied. It slipped under the door like smoke. I stood on the porch and counted to 4. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A new message, number not saved. Delivered. Ready for morning drop. I did not need a signature line to know who had sent it. I stepped off the porch and into the yard. The grass gave under my feet. In the window, the ofrenda shone, steady and kind, as if it did not notice contracts or exits, or the moment a house decides who belongs. I told myself the same sentence I had told my father, only this time I meant it like a vow. I will return when there is a table with light, and everything that needs reading will be read. Miguel's office felt like a place where paper learns to speak. Frosted glass, a round table, a wall clock ticking like a metronome for adult decisions. I walked in with a headache lodged behind my eyes, set my bag on the chair, and cried in 4 short breaths I could not swallow. Raquel crossed the room in 2 steps and held my shoulders. Miguel slid a box of tissues across the table without a word and waited for the clock to give me back my voice. "I was sent out of my own house," I said, steadying. He signed something again. Javier fed him the pen. Lorena smiled like that was mercy. Miguel opened the black journal with thin gloves, placed the bank receipt beside it, and drew a straight line on yellow paper. "We build an evidence chain," he said. "Fact, source, date, and who held it. We do not accuse, we document." He wrote the first links out loud so I could hear them. Joint account receipt, dated 2 weeks before death. Original location, bedroom cabinet, bottom drawer with latch. Current location, same. Copies, Maria's phone, time-stamped with GPS. Raquel mirrored him on her laptop, naming each file as she saved it. Journal entry, page 2. Joint stays joint. Ask kids before signing. If tired, pause. Photographs at 10:12 and 10:14 p.m. Houston, home address. Miguel nodded. Next, we request bank legacy records, signature card, last monthly statement before death. Any post-death changes. We log the request, the clerk's name, the ticket number. Raquel already had the bank's bereavement page open. "They call it legacy services," she said. "Upload proof of death, proof of relationship, and a letter of intent." "We can draft the letter now." I breathed. Not calm, but closer to it. The clock stepped forward. Miguel tapped the journal's margin. "This is not a will," he said, "but it is direct evidence of your mother's intent about the house. Combined with community property rules, it carries weight. It also sets the clean language for you to use. Not attack. Ask." He turned to me. "When you speak at the next meeting, keep 3 beats. 1. A pause. 2. A notary. 3. Copies before any further signatures. If someone says you are dramatic, say, 'Procedure is how we love each other under pressure.'" Raquel angled the laptop so I could see. "Ready to submit," she said. "Before I click, we add photographs of the cabinet and the latch. Chain of custody matters. I pulled up the images. The notch under the drawer lip glowed like a tiny secret. Raquel attached the photos and hit send. A ticket number blinked back at us. She pasted it into the notes. Now the law firm, Miguel said. We request copies of everything Tomas signed, power of attorney, beneficiary changes, any deed adjustments. We do it in writing and we ask for a courtesy PDF today. If they stall, we follow with certified mail. He dictated the sentence. Raquel typed. I heard my father's name in a context I could live with. Not a target, but a person to protect with pages. Next, Raquel said, not looking up. We check your phone and drive for anything that shows coordination, times, phrases, the messenger trail. I opened my photos and messages, hands suddenly clumsy. There they were. A shot of the courier's barcode on the birthday envelope. A photo of the corner embossing. A text screenshot I had grabbed at the party when Javier glanced away. Courier delivered. Later that night, another exchange. Lorena. Notary slot holds if we move quick. Javier. Commission discussed. I'll square it after docs. I had cropped out numbers, left only timestamps and those two words. Miguel's pen paused over the pad. We do not accuse of a crime, he said quietly. But we flag conflict of interest. If someone is paid to root your father's business, the family should know. It does not void a document by itself. It colors how we proceed. He drew a triangle and labeled the corners. Bank, law firm, house decisions. Our aim, he said, tapping the center, is a neutral table, notary present, documents on the table, everyone seeing the same pages, no signatures until copies are in the family folder. I exhaled. What if they push Dad to sign before then? You repeat the phrase, he said. Pause. Notary. Copies. If they tell you that you are disrespectful, you say, this is how I respect my father while he is tired. If they call it a fight, you say, it is a review. Raquel's email chimed. She scanned it and smiled. Legacy Services acknowledged the request, she said. They ask for 2 business days for the signature card scan. Statement could take longer, but the card is key. Miguel turned the journal to the page with the pre-marriage banknote. This line about a meeting before the wedding, he said. It might matter. If Lorena was asking about transfer before marriage, we want context. If it was innocent, fine. If not, your mother's note is a lighthouse. He made me practice the sentence I needed. Dad, for your rest and ours, can we pause and take this to a notary? No more signatures until we have copies. I said it once, twice, until my mouth remembered the shape without my throat breaking. Raquel gathered the exhibits like a teacher collecting quizzes. Print set for the table, she said. Digital set in a shared folder. The original journal stays put. Miguel slid a clear sleeve across to me. Put the receipt copy and the journal transcript in here. Take only copies to the meeting. Originals stay at home, sealed. If anyone asks why, you say, so nothing gets lost in the noise. The clock said we had been there less than an hour. My body said a day had passed. I stood and then sat again and laughed once without humor. They will say I am making a spectacle. Then you use small words, Miguel said. Small words survive storms. Pause. Notary. Copies. Raquel's phone buzzed. She glanced and frowned. We should also be ready for a countermove, she said. If they try to freeze you out with a temporary restriction, we respond with your father's capacity to choose a neutral review. He is not incompetent. He is tired. There is a difference. I closed the clear sleeve and held it like a new passport. The plastic edges clicked under my fingers. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could walk into a room without being swallowed by it. Before you go, Miguel said, let's draft a 1-page meeting script. You lead with love, not with proof. Then you place the proof on the table like salt and water. necessary. Ordinary, no drama. We wrote the script. 4 lines. Hello. Why we are here. What I ask. What I will not do. He made me read it twice until the syllables fell like steps I could climb. I packed the sleeve and the transcript. Raquel hugged me, quick and strong. Miguel walked me to the hall. Slow is strong, he said again. But steady is how you win. In the elevator, I looked at my reflection, eyes rimmed but clear. I texted Diego. I have documents. Please be at the next meeting. The 3 dots appeared and disappeared twice before his reply landed. I will. Outside, heat rose off the parking lot. I sat in my car and felt the quiet sit beside me. My phone buzzed once more. A message from an unknown number. 4 words in plain text. Careful. She has evidence. No name. No punctuation. I stared at it until the meaning separated from the letters and floated in the air like smoke. I did not need the contact to know where it came from. The timing. The tone. Uncle Victor loved a pot that warned before it boiled. Somewhere across town, Lorena was reading the same message and recalculating the furniture of her arguments. I started the car, the clear sleeve on the passenger seat catching a bar of sun. For the first time since I touched the manila envelope at the birthday party, I did not feel like a trespasser in my own life. I felt like a witness. And a witness does not shout. A witness shows the page, points to the date, and says, "Please, for the sake of the house, let us pause. Let us bring a notary. Let us all, for once, read the same line at the same time." The second family meeting felt heavier before it even began. The living room was the same. Candles steady on the ofrenda, marigolds patient, the tea tray set out. But the air had the thickness of a room that knew what was coming. Chairs formed a ring that pretended to be equal. Tomas sat near the head of the coffee table, jacket on indoors, as if warmth could be borrowed from cloth. Lorena took the seat closest to him. Javier placed himself on her other side like punctuation. Grace hovered by the doorway, already retreating. Diego stood, not sitting, hands in pockets. Uncle Victor leaned back, curious, like a man at a boxing gym who swears he only came to stretch. Miguel arrived with a soft briefcase and the neutrality of a courthouse hallway. "I asked you all again," Tomas said, "because I want calm." His eyes did not find me or anyone for long. He sounded like a man requesting rain to stop being wet. "I'll start," I said, and kept my voice low. Last time, I asked for copies and a pause. Today, I brought copies. And a way to pause. I set a thin folder in the center. On top was a 1-page index with times and sources. Under it, the transcript of my mother's journal entries, printed with the timestamp metadata in the footer. I did not summarize. I read the lines her block letters had carried across 2 years. Joint stays joint. Ask kids before signing. If tired, pause. I placed the transcript flat where every eye could fall on it. Lorena's laugh was a quickening of perfume. "Anyone can type a story and print it," she said. "Grief makes fiction look like memory." "It's not fiction," I answered. "It's a typed copy of a page that still sits in that drawer. We left the original where it belongs. We photographed it with time, date, and location. You're free to look at the images." Javier spread his hands as if conducting an invisible string section. "Typed pages are not legal instruments, Maria. We cannot halt a household because someone printed a feeling. Let's not inflate what is not binding." Miguel unzipped his briefcase and slid out 2 plastic sleeves. "Which is why we brought more than feelings," he said, even. "This is the bank's acknowledgement of our legacy services request. Ticket number, time, clerk's initials. And here is the preview of the signature card the bank has located for the joint account, with last names printed and card date. We also have the monthly statement index confirming the account was active up to 2 weeks before Anna passed." He placed the sleeves next to the transcript so they formed a small square of paper you could not argue with without looking rude. The room shifted its weight. Grace moved her hand from the doorframe to her elbow. Diego inhaled through his nose and let it go. Lorena folded her arms. A preview is not a certified copy, she said. Anyone can paste a logo in a PDF. Miguel did not blink. Which is why we asked for certified copies and will present them at a notary appointment for everyone to see together. Today, we are not certifying. We are deciding whether to pause until we can certify. Uncle Victor tipped his chin at Javier. And that firm business, he said, almost kindly. You kept saying it's standard. Any fee for sending the business their way, son? Javier smiled with no teeth. I do not get paid for caring about this family. I slid a final page onto the stack. A redacted screenshot of a text thread. Names cropped out. Timestamps clean. 2 phrases visible like road signs. Notary slot. Commission. These are messages between 2 people planning the last document drop, I said. Content redacted to stay fair. Times visible. Phrases not invented. Javier's mouth opened and closed around a word that wanted to be harmless. Context, he said at last. You don't have it. Which is why we go to a notary, I said. Where context is paper, not posture. For the first time, Tomas reached forward. He touched the edge of the transcript with 2 fingers, then withdrew. His right hand went to his breast pocket and stayed there, pressing a shape thin as an envelope. His jacket bunched around it, a small tent over a small storm. I am tired, he said. I said that last time. And Mom wrote what to do when tired. I said gently. Pause. Lorena leaned toward him so close her hair lifted with his breath. They are not lawyers, she whispered, loud enough to be heard. This is drama. If you stop now, you will drown in just one more paper. She turned to me. You are breaking his rest to win an argument. Miguel shook his head. Procedure is not a fight, he said. It is how families love each other when feelings are louder than facts. Silence landed like a book on a table. In that silence, the tiny clock in the hallway ticked without shame. A cousin shifted and the couch complained. Grace finally spoke, voice thin. If a notary makes it calmer, she said, why not try? Javier's mouth opened and closed around a word that wanted to be harmless. Context, he said at last. You don't have it. Which is why we go to a notary, I said. Where context is paper, not posture. For the first time, Tomas reached forward. He touched the edge of the transcript with 2 fingers, then withdrew. His right hand went to his breast pocket and stayed there, pressing a shape thin as an envelope. His jacket bunched around it, a small tent over a small storm. I am tired, he said. I said that last time. And Mom wrote what to do when tired. I said gently. Pause. Lorena leaned toward him so close her hair lifted with his breath. They are not lawyers, she whispered, loud enough to be heard. This is drama. If you stop now, you will drown in just one more paper. She turned to me. You are breaking his rest to win an argument. Miguel shook his head. Procedure is not a fight, he said. It is how families love each other when feelings are louder than facts. Silence landed like a book on a table. In that silence, the tiny clock in the hallway ticked without shame. A cousin shifted and the couch complained. Grace finally spoke, voice thin. If a notary makes it calmer, she said, why not try? I straightened the index page. We are not asking for control, I said to Tomas. We are asking for the pause you promised yourself in that letter you carry, the one you wrote after the funeral. His eyes flicked once, quick, to his pocket. If a look could name a secret without telling it, his did. He rubbed the envelope again, harder, as if warmth might change its words. Javier leaned forward, earnest to the edge of theater. Tomas, my friend, We are 2 inches from clean files. Let me finish the last step. Your sleep will come back when paperwork does not keep you up. Sleep comes back when the room stops spinning, I said. Not when pens go faster. Uncle Victor chuckled. Notary man, he said to Tomasz, like he was recommending a barber. Let a stranger watch us be honest. The room tilted toward me, but only a little. 2 aunts traded nods. Grace folded her arms and did not leave, which was its own kind of yes. Diego shifted his weight off his heels. Lorena's smile went thin as thread. Javier's fingers tapped the table, a drummer losing the beat. Thomas didn't declare anything. He didn't sign or tear or bless. He sat with his hand on his pocket and his eyes on the small square of paper we had built in the center of his own table. When he finally spoke, it sounded like a compromise he could live inside for an hour. I will think, he said. No more tonight. It wasn't victory. It was a crack where air could enter. We gathered our pages as if they were fragile plates. Miguel slid the notary form back into his case but left it unzipped. As people stood, I saw it again, Thomas's fingers pressing that thin shape by his heart. A letter, I thought. Maybe. The room broke into small conversations that didn't carry, but his hand stayed where it was, guarding or hiding or both. I could not see the envelope, only the weight of it in the way he breathed. And the night ended on that image. My father silent, his palm over a paper I had not read yet, as if the next decision were already written and waiting for light. The office was empty except for the exit light and the soda machine's hum. Diego had asked me to meet him there. Neutral ground, he'd said. He was inside, jacket off, sleeves rolled. Contracts lay open on the table. He rubbed the bridge of his nose and stared at the ceiling. I kept quiet because I thought it would pass, he said. But it isn't. Maria, their steering dad. Lorena smiles. Javier names the forms. He calls them standard, and then the standard moves. I thought silence would protect the company, he went on. If we fight, clients smell it. Banks get nervous. One rumor and bids go thin. He laughed once, dry. I told myself I was protecting the roof. And were you? I asked. No. I was protecting my fear. I took out a page, the copy of Mom's lines from the journal. I read, because sometimes a voice lands where paper can't. If I am tired, pause. If a decision is heavy, ask the kids. If anyone tells you to rush, go to a notary. Diego closed his eyes. That sounds like her. It is her, I said. She wrote instructions. I set the page down. You promised to protect your sisters. She asked you to protect the process. He paced to the window and back. Javier says there's a filing window. If we pause, we lose our spot. He pressed his palms on the wood. I nodded. I hate that I nodded. Spots come back, I said. A house does not, once it's handed away in the dark. At the last meeting when you spoke, Dad kept touching his pocket, he said. Like he was guarding something. I think he has a letter. Smaller than the firm's envelope. A letter he wrote after the funeral, I said. I didn't see it, he said. I felt it. Then speak now, not with Javier's script. Make your own sentence. What sentence? 3 words, I said. Pause. Notary. Together. He repeated them until the rhythm found his ribs. Pause. Notary. Together. He nodded. I can say that. And when Lorena calls you ungrateful, answer, procedure is how I love my father when he's tired. When Javier warns we'll lose a slot, say, we'll gain a witness. Small words carry. He took the page and read Mom's lines. He folded it along the creases, careful, like the fold was a promise. I'm scared, he said. If I step in front of them, they'll come for me. They'll say I'm sabotaging the company. They already say that about me, I said. Let them reuse their lines. We'll bring new ones. If they come for you, I'll stand next to you. We set the plan. He would call the meeting for tomorrow evening. He would speak first. Name the 3 words, request copies, and ask Dad to take the letter from his pocket and read it. If Dad refused, Diego would read the copy, and then we would sit in the quiet we'd asked for. If this goes badly, he said, we still have the bank card coming. We have more, I said. We have the truth in short sentences. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. Weather check. Diego on the move? I tilted the screen so he could see. Lorena, I said. He nodded. Then we step now, I said. Clock clicked to 11. Diego stacked the contracts and left them in the corner as if neatness could hold back a tide. At the meeting, he said, if Dad wavers, I'll ask him to hold the letter while he decides. Sometimes touch tells truth faster than eyes. That's something Mom would say. We locked up and crossed the lot. He stopped by my car. Tomorrow, he said, and for the first time in weeks, his voice had a ledge to stand on. Tomorrow, I said. 2 blocks later, a message arrived, from Grace. Lorena is nervous. Javier keeps texting. Be careful. Then another. Unsaved. Heads up. She knows Diego is switching. I didn't answer. At the red light, I said 3 words to the empty car. Pause. Notary. Together. Each word landed like a step on a stair I could see. At the top, a door waited. I imagined Dad opening it with a small letter in his hand, the one he kept near his heart, as if paper could warm him. Tomorrow I would ask him to read it. And tomorrow, the house would have to listen. The last meeting began before anyone sat. The living room held its breath. Candles burned on the ofrenda. Late Houston light pressed the curtains. Tomas stood with a hand on the couch, jacket on. I want this finished, he said. I want quiet. We want that too, I said. Quiet that holds, not the kind that cracks when a courier rings. Miguel set a thin stack at center. In order, he said. 1. Journal excerpts with timestamps. 2. The bank's signature card preview and statement index for the joint account. 3. A redacted chat showing notary slot and commission. 4. A letter Tomas wrote after the funeral. The ask is simple. Pause and review at a notary or an estate attorney, together. Javier smiled at together. Lorena crossed her ankles and folded her hands. Grace stayed by the doorway. Diego sat, palms on his knees. Uncle Victor leaned forward. I read Mom's lines. Joint stays joint. Ask the kids before signing. If tired, pause. I set the transcript where the light reached it. Miguel slid in the bank items. Logos, dates, a clerk's initials. This is theater, Lorena said. Typed words and old receipts do not run a household. They guide it, I said. Javier tapped the chat screenshot. Commission does not mean what you think. Context is why we meet a notary, Miguel said. Same copies for all. No rushing. Diego cleared his throat. Pause. Notary. Together, he said. Tomas rubbed the pocket over his heart. A thin envelope pressed against the fabric. Dad, I said, will you read the letter you wrote after the funeral? He removed the envelope, unfolded a page, and stared until the room went quiet in a new way. When he read, his voice was rough and clear. I wrote this so I would not forget myself, he said. I will keep the house transparent. I will ask my children before I sign anything major. If I am tired or pressured, I will pause and meet a notary. I will not let grief make me hurried. He pressed the page flat. I did not follow my own instructions. Lorena touched his sleeve. You were protected, she said. We kept things moving. And I took a courtesy fee, Javier added. Normal in my industry. Uncle Victor whistled without sound. Diego leaned forward. Dad, we can stop today, he said. We review with a witness. Nothing signed until we have copies. Tomas held the letter like a map. We pause, he said at last. To Miguel. Find the notary, bring the copies. Everyone present. To me. Maria, I am sorry. It wasn't grand. It was clean. The room exhaled. Lorena's poise cracked. A pause invites interference, she said. Penalties. Lost windows. We gain a witness, I said. Some documents are already filed, Javier tried. Then we review them, Miguel said. If a filing was improper, we correct it. Tomas nodded. From today, no more signatures without copies on the table, no more late envelopes, no more yellow tabs without eyes. He handed me the letter. My name sat in the first line and the last. I folded it and set it back where all could see ink outlast momentum. Uncle Victor clapped once, soft. Grace touched Dad's shoulder. Diego met my eyes and did not look away. Lorena sat still. Javier smoothed his tie. Miguel packed the exhibits. I'll confirm the notary for Thursday, he said. Request PDFs today. Tomas stood, older and lighter. Thank you for speaking to me, he said. Not at me. I stepped onto the porch. The light was warm and ordinary. Houston afternoon laid a quiet gold across the rail. I breathed and felt it reach the bottom of my lungs. Behind me, chairs moved and low voices threaded into something almost gentle. Tomorrow would be paperwork. Maybe probate if we found knots. That could wait. For now, I stood in a square of sun with my mother's sentences steady in my head. Pause. Notary. Together. I let the words settle like clean dishes on a shelf. Then I went back inside to sit with my father. Not to argue, but to rest in the room we had made honest enough to breathe in. I set my father's letter back down and stacked the papers neatly on the table as the late afternoon light poured in like a new breath. I realized this. Being filial isn't blind obedience. Love needs boundaries, and when you're tired, you pause. Bring everything into the open with evidence, contracts, and signatures in front of a witness. Justice may arrive late, but when it comes by legal means, it is warmer and more lasting than a burst of anger. Outside, the sky cleared after a light rain, and the house felt as calm as the smell of fresh rice. If this story touched you, please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Type 1 if you relate. Type 2 if you think there's room to improve.